Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to go my review of Saturday night's main event. What a great night. And honestly, for what it's worth, I thought it was a good event. Starting off the night, we go into our first match of the night. It's for the Women's World Championship. It is Rhea Ripley defending the Women's World title against Nia Jax. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Nia and Rhea, with Rhea keeping the pace of the match. Rhea hits a code red on Nia Jax in the middle of the ring for a near fall. Nia then hits a leg drop off the middle rope on Rhea Ripley. Looked absolutely brutal for a near fall. Rhea then gets up, hits a powerbomb on Nia. Nia gets up, hits an annihilator on Rhea Ripley. But Rhea Ripley somehow gets up, hits her signature Riptide on Nia Jax. Pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still Women's World Champion, is Rhea Ripley. Hats off to Rhea Ripley for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we have an Intercontinental Championship matchup. It is Braun Breaker defending the Intercontinental title against Sheamus. Sheamus is still trying to chase and win the Intercontinental title. The match itself, man, I thought was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Sheamus and Breaker, with Sheamus keeping the pace of the match. After that, Braun then hits a spear on Sheamus in the middle of the ring. Sheamus then somehow gets up, hits a Celtic Cross on Braun Breaker for a near fall. Braun then gets up, hits a Gorilla Press Slam on Sheamus. Braun then hits a Frankensteiner off the top rope, taking out Sheamus. Sheamus then gets up, hits a Brogue Kick on Braun Breaker for a near fall. But Braun hits his signature spear on Sheamus, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still Intercontinental Champion, is Braun Breaker. Hats off to Braun Breaker for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a contract signing with special moderator Shawn Michaels, and the contract signing is between Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes in their highly anticipated matchup at the Royal Rumble in their ladder match to actually decide who is the undisputed World Heavyweight Champion. Owens and Rhodes come out to the ring. They're face-to-face, kind of have a stare down. Shawn says that they need to sign the contract tonight. Rhodes quickly signs the contract. Owens then says Rhodes took the easy way out. Owens said he's looking to take everything away from Rhodes. Shawn says that Owens seemed jealous. This pretty much pissed off Kevin Owens. Owens then mocks Shawn Michaels. Owens then signs the contract. Referee then hangs up both of the world titles. Both titles were hanging above the ring. Owens then hits Rhodes. Shawn then hits a super kick, taking out Kevin Owens. Definitely looking forward to this matchup between Owens and Rhodes at the Royal Rumble. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Jacob Fatu taking on Braun Strowman. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman, with Fatu keeping the pace of the match. Fatu attacks the referee. Fatu then hits multiple hip attacks on Braun Strowman. Referee sounds for the bell. Match ends in a disqualification. WWE security come out to the ring to stop Fatu, but Fatu attacks the WWE security, and then Fatu hits 3 moonsaults off the top rope on Braun Strowman. Interesting stuff there from Jacob Fatu. Moving on from that, we go into the main event of Saturday night's main event. It is Gunther defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso. I thought it was a good match, back and forth matchup between Jey and Gunther, with Jey keeping the pace of the match. Jey and Gunther both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Gunther hitting a power bomb on Jey Uso for a near fall. Jey then hits a spear on Gunther as well for a near fall. Jey then hits an Uso splash off the top rope on Gunther for a near fall. But Gunther hits 2 power bombs on Jey Uso, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, is still World Heavyweight Champion, is Gunther. Hats off to Gunther for getting the win in this matchup. Couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Saturday night's main event, and just some news that have come out about WWE. So let's talk about Saturday night's main event, man. Number one, and I mentioned this the last time when they brought this event back. I'm a huge nostalgia fan. I love old school wrestling. I love the old school pay-per-views, the old school themes. I'm a huge fan of that. So when WWE brought back the Saturday night's main event, and they had the video package of showing some highlights of matches that happened back in the day for the original Saturday night's main event, I was all for it, man. And obviously having Jesse the Body Ventura a part of, again, this year's, or the second, I would say, Saturday night's main event. It's great. Obviously Jesse the Body Ventura was a part of the first ever Saturday night's main event. I think that was in 1986 or 1987, if I'm not mistaken. And it's great to see him a part of the WWE family again. To be honest with you, I think it brings that nostalgia into this event. Obviously, the name is synonymous, or this event is synonymous with professional wrestling. They've had a lot of great matches for Saturday night's main event. And I thought the event was great, man, from top to bottom. Obviously, I think the aesthetics of the arena looked a little bit different from, the first time they just did the Saturday night's main event. I think this time around, the entrance was a lot different. I actually enjoyed the entrance a little bit more this time than I did in the first one they did when they brought the event back. But the matches were good, man. I think, obviously I hope this is something that's going to stick around with WWE for quite a while. I think this is something that's going to really benefit them, obviously benefit the fans. And they're putting on championship matches and championship quality matches at that as well. So I'm all for it, man. I think this is something that, like I said, hopefully WWE continues to, do this event. I mean, this event obviously took place in San Antonio, Texas. That was the other reason why Shawn Michaels was a part of the contract signing. It's his hometown. He had a huge pop when he walked out to the arena, and rightfully so. But again, man, this was a great event. I think from top to bottom, it was a solid event. And there was a lot of good matches. Speaking of the matches, obviously one of the matches that really, caught my eye was Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman. So let's start with Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu, and I mentioned this when Fatu came into WWE, he is one of the biggest free agent signings that WWE has had in a very long time. This guy obviously was wrestling on the indies. He wrestled a lot, predominantly for MLW. He was a huge name on the indies. And when they brought him in to WWE, man, this guy has been an indestructible force since he's been in WWE. He's done a fantastic job. I do think Jacob Fatu has, singles gold heading his way here soon. The guy's just a powerhouse, man. He is a freak athlete. That moonsault that he does, the springboard moonsault that he's doing at, 330? I think he's 6'4", 330. I mean, it's impressive, man. Fatu is a monster, a beast, bro. And to be honest with you, like I said, is one of the best free agent acquisitions that WWE has had done in a very long time. And to be honest with you, man, the sky is the limit for Jacob Fatu. To be honest with you, man. And to be honest, I was thinking, what's going to happen next now that, Jacob Fatu beat Braun Strowman. And they really made Jacob Fatu look like an, indestructible force. To be honest with you, and I know they filed a trademark for Jacob Fatu with the Tribal Wolf. I'm all for that. If, he wants to be the next guy in line. I mean, I know Roman Reigns is the current Tribal Chief after he was successful over Solo Sikoa. But I wouldn't mind a stable push, or, the bloodline, if you will, what Solo once had, if they, kind of rally around Jacob Fatu. I'm all for that. I think Fatu is an incredible athlete. He's an incredible superstar. And he's a force to be reckoned with within WWE, especially the SmackDown roster. I think the guy is going to be a future world champion here, probably within the next 2 years, to be honest with you. Whether it's, the Universal Championship, whether that's the United States Championship, he's got singles gold coming his way. And rightfully so. I mean, he's done a fantastic job in this match alone. I know some people were not really thrilled with the outcome of the match due to the fact that it ended in a disqualification. But, I mean, Jacob Fatu looked great against Braun Strowman, man. He looked like, again, he was an indestructible force. He beat the shit out of Braun Strowman. And Braun Strowman's no small man. He is he's a strong man. I think he's like, almost 7 foot tall, almost about, 400 pounds or something like that. I mean, he's a big man. Solid. So to have Jacob Fatu come in here 6'3", 330, and just decimate Braun Strowman, it just makes Jacob Fatu look like an indestructible force and a force to be reckoned with, in WWE as well as the SmackDown division, which I'm all for it. Obviously, they're pushing him as a heel. I'm all for it. And right now, we don't even really know what's going on right now with the bloodline. Not the OG bloodline, but the bloodline. Because we haven't really heard anything from Solo Sikoa since he lost that matchup in Tribal Combat with Roman Reigns. We haven't heard shit from Solo Sikoa, and we really haven't seen him on television a whole lot since he had that matchup with Roman. So I don't know where the, not the OG bloodline, but the current bloodline, where that sits right now with Solo Sikoa. And are they pushing Jacob Fatu to be the leader of that faction? It's a very high probability considering the fact that they just filed a trademark for Fatu being the tribal wolf, from what I understand. So again, interesting stuff there, but it was definitely one of the best matches on the card. Rhea Ripley, she defended the Women's World Heavyweight Championship against Nia Jax. Again, definitely impressed with how Rhea's been carrying herself with the Women's World Championship. And I'm also impressed with Nia Jax, man. I know a lot. Nia Jax got some grief not too long ago. I believe it was in Survivor Series, and I wasn't really too thrilled with her performance either. But as of late, man, Nia Jax has done a hell of a job, to be honest with you. And I think people need to start giving her a little bit more credit where credit's due. I mean, like I said, I was hard about it myself when the matchup at Survivor Series, because I thought, the match that she had at Survivor Series, I just felt like it was lackluster. And, I just felt like she wasn't really in tune into that matchup. But as weeks go on and as months go on, Nia Jax is really showing a whole different side of herself, and she is a force to be reckoned with, man. And I felt bad because I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm being too hard on her, man. Like, just, super, criticizing everything that she's doing. I think she's a phenomenal athlete, number one. I think she's a force to be reckoned with within the women's division, obviously. Obviously former women's world champion. And the matches that she's had as of late, I feel like she's just, kicked it into another gear. So, again, I was also thrilled with that matchup with Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley. And Nia Jax, again, she definitely impressed me in Saturday night's main event. But like I said, man, the main vocal point obviously was Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman. I feel like that match alone for that event was kind of more highlighted than Jey Uso taking on Gunther, which Jey was unsuccessful with beating Gunther. He was not World Heavyweight Champion after that night. But they're pushing Jey. I mean, obviously Jey Uso is one of the biggest baby faces in all of WWE. He's immensely over, and his time will come. His time will come, to be honest with you. I think Jey's done a phenomenal job. I said the same thing when Jey won the Intercontinental title, man. That guy busted his ass and put the time in and put the work in to build his craft up and to put the time in to actually get himself an opportunity for the Intercontinental title. And he was successful in becoming Intercontinental Champion. So, and rightfully so, man. The guy absolutely deserves it. But, and then you have, other matches on the card. You also have, if you look back at it, you had, like I said, you had the women's matchup with Rhea and Nia Jax. You had Jey Uso and Gunther, which, again, wasn't a terrible match. It wasn't that bad. And then you have Sheamus and Braun Breaker. And, the thing with Sheamus is, and everybody kept saying this and reiterating this, you hear from on commentary, that this is the one title that's kind of eluded Sheamus during his entire career in WWE. He's been, with WWE for a long time. And the Intercontinental Championship has always been that one title that's just, eluded Sheamus. And Sheamus is trying to do whatever he can to get that title, that title and win it. But unfortunately he was unsuccessful in beating Braun Breaker, and Breaker walked out still Intercontinental Champion. With that being said, do I think Sheamus will get the opportunity to become Intercontinental Champion? Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's looking. I mean, did he lose clean against Braun at Saturday night's main event? Absolutely. Braun did beat him, and he beat him clean. But I think the narrative of it is I think they really are trying to push Sheamus to become Intercontinental Champion. I don't know when that's going to happen, but that's the way it's looking. Even though that he's had an abundance of matches already with Braun where he was unsuccessful, obviously, in becoming the new Intercontinental Champion. Braun Breaker, I mean, Breaker, Christ, man, obviously I was a big fan of, his dad and his uncle, the Steiner brothers. They were a great tag team, one of the best tag teams of all time. But Braun, he's a whole different animal, to be honest with you. Braun Breaker, from his run in NXT and when he came over to WWE, man, he has been hell on wheels since he got on the main roster. And they really are pushing Braun. I mean, hence the reason why he's the Intercontinental Champion right now. But Braun Breaker's another one of those guys, man, that sky's the limit. It's the same thing with Jacob Fatu. And I would love to see Braun Breaker versus Jacob Fatu. I think, to me, that would be a dream match. To see Jacob Fatu versus Braun Breaker. I think those guys will tear the house down. And hopefully one day we get that matchup. Hopefully. But again, this is something where, you look at someone like Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker, and WWE are pushing these guys to the moon. And rightfully so. I mean, these guys have done a phenomenal job since they've been on the main roster and since they've been with WWE. And I think, like I said, sky's the limit. We can also see Braun Breaker possibly become World Heavyweight Champion at some point. I mean, usually, the person that holds the Intercontinental Championship, it kind of, skyrockets them up to a World Heavyweight Championship opportunity. So maybe we might see Braun go after the World Heavyweight title, which I'm all for that. I think Braun will be a great World Heavyweight Champion. But again, I mean, I think as a whole for Saturday night's main event, I think it's, obviously it's an event that I'm a big fan of. Like I said, I'm a big fan of nostalgia, and I love that WWE brings back some of these events for the fans. And I mean, obviously there's going to be fans out there that have no idea or know anything about Saturday night's main event. I mean, you look at, Joe Tessitore and Jesse the Body Ventura having their own, standing on the stage, and, you hear Michael Cole announcing that that's the Okerlund position to pay homage to the late, great Mean Gene Okerlund, which I was all for that, man. And rest in peace to Mean Gene. But again, it was cool. It was really cool that, they gave Mean Gene his flowers and named that position the Mean Gene, or the Okerlund position, the position where Jesse the Body Ventura and Joe Tessitore were doing interviews and talking about the matches leading up to the actual match. So I was all for that too, man. I think WWE does a hell of a job with nostalgia, to be honest with you. And like I mentioned before, it's a global brand, man. They're already talking about doing events in Mexico City. I also found out that they're going to go back to, I believe, France for another event. I don't know the name of the event currently right now, but there is speculation that WWE will be going back to France for another PLE, which I'm all for that. I'm all for that because I remember when they did, I believe it was Backlash, if I'm not mistaken, and the crowd in France was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I'm all for them going back to France because those fans in France are absolutely incredible. But again, man, I mean, hopefully this is something that, WWE keeps into the fold for the foreseeable future for Saturday night's main event, because I just think it works, man. I mean, we get championship matches, we get championship quality matches, and it's something that, is entertaining to the fans, and it really benefits WWE because it's, they treat it, even though it's not technically a pay-per-view, they treat it as if it's a PLE, and I'm all for it. I'm absolutely all for it, and hopefully we continue to see more PLEs, not PLEs, more Saturday night's main events in the future, because I think it's beneficial for both parties, for WWE as well as the fans that always watch WWE's product. So, yeah, hopefully it sticks around, man. But with that being said, this is my review of WWE Saturday night's main event. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.